Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Executive Insider. This is the show where we introduce you to executives around the globe who are sharing their secrets to success. And today I'm going to be talking with Jason Winters. He is a global executive with a huge background in business strategy, and he was kind enough to write an article for Link for our site on project management. I just want to bring it up for a second because this thing is phenomenal. I know we're going to put the links there. Specifically because this article talks about a lot of the myths and misassumptions around project management. So if you're somebody in project management or thinking about getting into it in a career, this is somebody who's carried this through his career and now is at the executive level. So I think he's going to share a lot of incredible insights with us today on that subject. So with that in mind, I don't want to wait anymore. I want to bring him right up on the screen. Hey, Jason.
Hi, J.T. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for joining the show today and sharing all this. The article was outstanding, so info-packed. I really hope everybody watches it. We're going to go through some questions that I had pulled together with your help prior to this, but also going to take some questions from the audience. So audience members, don't be shy. Post your questions in the chat and we will answer them in real time. But for starters, can you just really quickly tell everyone the journey of how you got to being, a global business executive today?
Yeah, sure. But before we get started, I just want to say how much I like your program, JT. We've been collaborating for about 4 months now. And, you always learn something from somebody, no matter how much experience you have. And I got to say, the one thing that resonates with me until this very moment is intellectual humility. Okay, so thank you for teaching me that because, we're fellow Gen Xers. And when we were taught in the day before learning on the internet, we had to commit everything to this central, our CPU was our brain, right? So we had to commit large amounts of data to our brain and show no signs of weakness. You're the expert, at the flip of a switch, you have to know everything. So basically, you have to boast to get the most. So thank you for that. And it really puts things in perspective, especially in today's environment where we have so much access to information and it's fantastic. If we know how to use those tools, it enhances how we learn. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And, same to you. I know that I'm asking you and putting you on spot to tell us your journey, but I know for a fact that you're quite humble about this. So tell everyone a little bit about this so that we can talk about these incredible, pieces of info around project management.
It's actually, I kind of got started by mistake, actually, because I was doing an MBA at the University of South Alabama. We had an exchange program with a business school in France, in Pau. And instead of doing just the exchange program, I ended up doing the actual complete program. So I did have the MBA at that school as well. And they already had project management concepts that are being taught, but it wasn't really a formal curriculum. So when I got back to Houston, which is where I'm from, so it's, oil and gas is like the number one driver, number one industry. And, I was specifically targeting jobs that were French companies that were based in Houston or that had a branch in Houston. So the interesting thing is I was looking through the paper in those days, it was going through the paper, the classifieds, the last page, very small ad, it was a French company's name, but the ad was very nondescript. So I wasn't really sure what it was about. I had a lot of friends at the consulate. I asked my questions and they said, look, go for it because, they're pretty well known in France. They may not be known here in the US, but go for it. So I go for the interview. I walked in the door. It's a parallel universe. There's project management everywhere. It's like, from purchasing to quality to, scheduling to sales. A lot of people have this, this misnomer that sales and project management have nothing to do with each other, but they're actually extremely tied together. And I think I mentioned that in the article as well. So I got started in that specific job just to kind of test the waters. And it just opened up an amazing number of opportunities for me. Eventually I was in France at the home office, resolving cultural issues between the two, the renegade Texans versus the French. And then it led to positions in Switzerland, and then it was Saudi Arabia, then it was Argentina, and just everywhere. But it was all project management and, with the project management twist to it. So it was really interesting because I had no idea that it really involved all of the functional areas. So it kind of was the thing.
It's such a beautiful example of how to build a global career, which I think a lot of people these days want, even with all that's going on in the world, we just want to go beyond our own borders and work in different places. And as you said, there's different nuances. So talk to me a little bit about that, because when you look back at all these different projects you've worked on, what gets you so excited about project management? What is it thematically that's got you, so deep into this concept?
Well, I always say what gets me out of bed every morning, besides my 7-year-old when he's really hungry, is just helping people, right? Helping people. Project management for me is a vehicle to not just manage projects, but it's a mindset, right? So kind of like if you have your project management hat on, it's almost like a lawyer sometimes. You're analyzing things, you're questioning things. If you use the French part of the of you know the philosophy they have in France about questioning things and validating. Escapes me right now, but anyway, basically, it's seeing a process, seeing someone that's struggling in a position, struggling through a process, applying project management concepts to process improvement, continual improvement, customer engagement. It's such a vast field that literally it's been 25 plus years, and I don't know where the time's gone. And really, I feel like I've just scratched the surface because there's so much more that I want to do with it, right? So, I've applied it to other areas, not just my own industry. I've been able to do it in the volunteer role. That's been very satisfying. So really, I think it's the vastness, it's the communication, it's the involvement, not just internally within the organization, but also with customers. So
Yeah, I love that you use the word curiosity, because I think that's what keeps us engaged and moving forward in our careers, especially as executives. We have to have that curiosity. Once that dies, I think to some degree our careers die with it. So that was great to hear. And you also mentioned something about struggles and challenges. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Tell me about the hardest project management job you were ever on. What was the worst one?
yeah, well, it wasn't supposed to be one. Just kind of like when I started my career, they're like, here, it's a company, walk in the door. Oh my goodness. I've been in Brazil now since 2001. And in my company, based in Rio, we bought a valve company, which is a family owned company in northeastern Brazil. And the general idea was go there, introduce new product lines, get to know the people, and see what's a good fit to serve, the local market, but also bring technology in, create jobs, and all that kind of stuff. So I had this big, huge business plan. It was fantastic. 4 or 5 phases. It's got, engineering. It's got machinings that we're going to need. It's going to need the entire operational setup, intellectual property. Really interesting stuff. Right. So day one, I go in there. Everything's great. Hi, everybody. I'm the new guy. They're like, oh, great. Nice to see you. Oh, great. You speak Portuguese, blah, blah, blah. So good first day. So let's plan for the week. So day number 2, I walk in the facility, walking down the hall to my new office, and I hear this really heated argument behind closed doors. I mean, lots of expletives, things that I can't repeat. But I'm like, wow, something is not doing well in Denmark. So this door flies open. This guy, tall, I mean, seriously, 6'5", 7 feet tall, comes out furious, red in the face, just yelling, "You're incompetent. You guys are irresponsible. What's going on?" And then, in true solidarity, the guys inside the building says, "Hey, he's the new dog. He's the new valve guy." To him, I'm like, "Oh, talk about being put on the spot, right?" So, to make a long story short, that ended up being our customer, by the way. And he said, "Look, you've taken on $10 million of valve orders, and they are due next week, and you haven't even ordered the first component. So what is going on?" So it was like huge, and I was totally, blindsided. I had no idea. So I get an emergency call from my boss saying, "You need to fly back to Rio now, like now." So I get back, and he says, "Oh, by the way, you are now the highest paid project expediter in the history of the planet, and you need to fix this, and you need to fix it now, because the entire company footprint in Brazil, with your 5 divisions, 5 locations, 1,000 people, over $1 billion in revenue, is riding on this. Okay? Owen, good luck." So basically, and they gave me one resource, which was a one of those GRDPs. I don't know if you know what that is, but those are elite trainees that spend 2 years in an organization, and they go 6 months in different areas to learn about the business, and then see which area that they really, enticed by. So basically, I had that one person for 6 months, and that was it. So, what am I going to do? So unfortunately, part of the management team that bought the company, I knew them from another division inside the company. So we kind of strategized and said, look, we're not going to get more resources. So let's band together. Before it was a family-owned company. They only had one P&L, one bottom line, and now they're part of corporate America. They have two P&Ls. They're two different divisions. And by the way, our division is profitable, but yours is losing money. So am I painting you a really great picture now? I was like, oh, look, we'll get through this. But the problem is, oh yeah, and I forgot, our ERP system is really archaic, and we cannot communicate with yours, which is SAP. So what are you going to do? So I was like, okay, so there's anything more that you want to throw at me? Because so far, I'm just loving it. So what happened is, they had zero procedures, and they were really adapting. They were really going through a lot of struggles. So they had these other three GRDPs, by the way, that were just out there in limbo. So I said, look, I'll take all of them on my wing as a coach, mentor, and we will implement procedures in all of your departments. And this kind of a adapted stage gate philosophy, because I love stage gates. For some reason, I just, gets me going. So I was like, okay, so we have all these stage gates. We're gonna tailor it to the operation, and here we go. So and I used my GRDP, really great girl, and now she is doing very well in Dubai at the same company. But I said, you are my secret weapon. You will now take this 7-foot tall person, and you're only 4'11" yourself, and we're gonna get it done. And we did. It was not easy. It took us about a year to get it done, but it's the smallest project that I really had managed, but yet it was the hardest one, and it had the most, writing on it. So
I love it. I love the complexity, and I can tell just by the way you tell the story that you thrive in the stress and the chaos. It just it gets you going, which is amazing. That's just amazing. So you've seen a lot of different projects, and you've dealt with a lot of different projects. Are there any trends in project management that you're seeing these days?
Yeah, before COVID, I would have said there was 4 or 5 basic trends, but since COVID, it's digital, 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 right? So, so really, a lot of concepts like agile, they have waterfall, which is the traditional type of project management, with the hierarchy and the formal structures and the teams and whatnot. And then agile, really tailored to the millennial generation, but there's certain projects that just can't be agile by definition. They're too complex, or the timing. You have an engineering background. You know what it's like to, have a basic design, and then you have a detailed design, and then by the time you complete the project, it's 3 or 4 years. So agile, not going to work. But you can, apply it to certain parts of the project to accelerate that, and that's great. Then there's VUCA, and VUCA is fantastic because in this right now we're living in a VUCA world, right? So it's all volatile, it's uncertain, it's chaotic. So we have to be able to apply project management principles to be able to analyze situations like that. And you also have, I believe, you have a military background or military influence. Same here. I come from a military family. So for me, these type of situations, like you said, thriving on chaos, love it. Love it, because it's me. I just thrive on it. So, right now, those are the trends. And then, of course, it's the Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things, digital apps that we can use as project management professionals to help us, do our jobs better, faster, to have more time to be strategists, to have more time to negotiate and communicate with customers rather than doing this work. As a project manager, you should be really 85% of your time should be communicating.
It's amazing.
And half of that is negotiating, by the way.
so true.
So these new apps are going to help us, and I'm like, bring them on. I want the more apps, the better. I'm ready. So
I think it's so interesting you say that, because project management is so much about proper communication and being a good communicator, and having those tech tools, like you said, to free you up to be able to do more of that is key. Not every organization, though, is going to have the finance or the resources for tech, and it makes me think about your background in nonprofit. So can you talk to everybody, because some people think, okay, they really don't even have project management in nonprofit, but you worked in a pretty large organization. So talk about that.
Yeah, actually, I've had 3 experiences. The first one was actually the Olympics in Rio 2016. And that was fantastic because it wasn't really a formal project management mission per se, but it was definitely a volunteer, because everyone that works, most of the people are, 85% are volunteers. So really, it's like in any volunteer situation or any nonprofit, it's really about a level playing field, right? So you are going to be managing part of a project, and you may not even have the top position in that, even though you may be a CEO like yourself, but in this situation, you are now a project scheduler because you want to do that. So it came from inside. You wanted to help people. So another thing coming back to that. But it's, applying that in my Rio experience for the Olympics was fantastic because you have cultures from all over the world. So there's a communication problem from the onset. And then they have their objectives. What are they going to be able to do? How are they going to be able to make it? Because you have a live date. I was specifically geared towards the closing ceremonies. That is a hard date. It's television, it's live, and you cannot deviate from that. There are no deviations. So it was great to be able to help them kind of steer the content sometimes. And I said, look, how is that content going to land on live television? They may have the really, the great broadcasting, skills. They may have the great, the technical skills, but are they thinking as a layman? I always say, bring it back to who is your audience and how is it going to land to your audience? So that was great. And then, of course, being able to do that inside the actual Project Management Institute was fantastic. Because if you can do it inside the very institute that is responsible for your profession, that's fantastic. So everybody in that team is either a PMP, or even we had a past president on our project, past president of our chapter. So it's really, really fantastic. But the one that I really would like to be able to actually dedicate more of my time to is the United Nations. They have this whole online volunteer association. You can do lots of things with them. And right now I'm helping them, although I'd like to do more, with a educational program for underprivileged kids in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. It's the AND Foundation. Fantastic. They have zero project management skills, and they have all of this desire. They want to learn, and they are really, really all over it. And it makes me feel really good to be able to do that for them. But again, right now it's a time issue, but you can definitely apply project management concepts into that situation.
The question I had for you was around influencers or very successful people in project management that you admire, that you suggest people follow or check out.
Wow. Okay. That's a great question. Actually, the very first job I had, I was telling you about the alternate universe that I walked in the door. The president of that branch, his name is Ed Tinnen, and he's recently retired. And, he was really key for me throughout my career because not only he opened all these doors for all these opportunities, but he also put me on the management training team. And he also requested that we read a book. Okay, and the book is by Rick Pitino. So I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a basketball coach, pretty famous. And at the time, he was coaching the University of Kentucky. So he wrote a book called Success is a Choice. And to this day, it resonates with me because, on a previous blog post I wrote on LinkedIn, I say success is a scoped project deliverable, right? So really, you make your own success. And I think sometimes, especially in the US, we have that tendency of let's compare ourselves to the Joneses, or let's compare ourselves to anybody anywhere in any situation. It's dangerous. It affects you mentally, and it holds you back. So I think, it was such an eye opener for me. Also like the concept of the business of one, by the way, I like that very much. But, he said, you build your own success, you make your own parameters, start small and build, and you have a solid foundation, and you just keep adding on to it. But you built that over time, and you're not expecting an immediate return on anything. It's going to be an investment, but you're also being realistic and not setting a goal that's so incredibly difficult to attain. You will frustrate yourself. So that book for me resonates even today.
So you've done a lot of training in project management. I would think too that a lot of what you learn in project management helps you mitigate risk and make sound decisions and goal setting, that sort of thing. Talk to me about job seekers, people listening to this today, saying, I think I want to get into this. What would you advise them?
Okay, great question, by the way. Whether you're a seasoned project management professional or not, I would say, project management and project manager are not mutually exclusive. That's the first thing. So a lot of people have that misnomer. They're like, oh, he's a project manager. But actually, they might be a project scheduler or a project coordinator. So, find out, whatever your skill level is, however long you've been in the profession, it doesn't matter. make sure you understand how that hierarchy works and what are the skills required for each type of position. And second of all is, look at the companies that you're targeting. Do they have a project management focus or not? Because some of them refer to it as an operational, and I mentioned this in my article, oh, you're just part of the operation. But it's a lot more than that. I say you're running a business inside of a business. So you have full P&L responsibility for your chunk of the pie. So, you got to do it all. So I'd say right now, it's all about the soft skills. I've seen it everywhere, not just you, but it's every single day. Oh, this soft skill or that soft skill. But really, if you are a project manager or even a project coordinator, you already have, I'd say, a leg up on the competition. So you need to leverage your communication skills, your negotiation skills, and look around, hire a career coach. And I say, I like your platform very much. So that's why, even though I was looking at it from 30,000 feet, I have to admit, for about 6 months, I didn't make the dive, I didn't make the plunge, but I'm so happy I did. Even if it's not your program, like you say, get a career coach, because HR is not your career coach. They're not. And sometimes even when I first started, HR, they're going to give me this career track. They're going to give me training. They're going to make sure that I fill the gaps that I need to fill. That really should be your manager. And if you have a good manager and they're in tune to that, and usually, in big corporations, you even have tools like Career Flow. I really like that one. It can help you to develop your people, which is what you should do. If you're between jobs right now, or if you want to change jobs, then I would say, even in this digital situation, it's not impossible. First of all, it starts at, look at, like you always say, your network is your net worth. I like that too. But, leverage your network, but also, if you're looking at jobs that are posted anywhere, use your project management thinking cap to scope it. So what are they really saying? It's like buying property. Oh, beachfront view. And you go to it and it has one little window and you can see it maybe a mile away. So what is this job ad telling you? Just like the very first job ad that I responded to. The only reason I responded to it because it was a French name. So it must have been halfway interesting to me, right? Do your research. Like you say, pick out those companies that you're really interested in, or an industry. And the great thing about project management is, if you're at a dead-end industry or something that's going to disappear pretty soon or have a severe downsize, you can apply that to any industry. You can. Yeah. So that's the good thing about project management.
I totally agree. Hey, we've had a couple questions, and Michael summed it up nicely. Jason, can you tell us a little more about VUCA and why you think it's better for our current work from home environments? Good question.
Excellent question. Thank you for that. So VUCA, basically, if you're able to navigate uncertain times. So basically, like I was saying, no project is the same, no situation is the same. So really, in a VUCA world, you have to be able to think quickly on your feet, make snap decisions very quickly. You need to assess the situation, remove emotion. That's the big thing, because under VUCA, we tend to be really emotional when we get surprised by something, or it's a major event, and that might be happy surprise or bad surprise.
Right.
So the emotion, even positive or negative, will affect your ability to make a sound decision. So step back, analyze the situation, and then understand what's really going on here, and remove the fluff. Remove the fake news, remove what someone's interjected their opinion, and it might be a valid opinion, but maybe you want to validate that yourself.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's a neat term. I had not heard of VUCA. Agile I had heard of, but not VUCA for sure. Coley is a great question. What do you find is at the core of our most cultural differences? How have you resolved some of those intense issues and differences? Because you seem to be an expert at diffusing these situations. So I think she's talking about, like you said, those cultural differences across countries. Talk to us a little bit about that.
It's a great question, and I've always been really fascinated by human psychology, right? It comes naturally. My mom is into psychology. My dad is a doctor. It's always about the human mind. And, in neuroscience, I think is fantastic. I have a good friend in Argentina. She's an expert in neuroscience. I tune into her broadcast, every week. Basically, cultural differences. Since I'm naturally curious about other cultures, I learned 5 languages. I've traveled to every continent, about 60 countries, because I've truly wanted to learn about people and not read it in a textbook. right? And even if you're online, sometimes it can be a little bit more challenging. But if you really, really are interested, first understand who you're dealing with. So if I'm going to send you to Saudi Arabia, that's a big cultural difference. So don't just go there and say, I'm going to apply my same project management methodology, my same Anglo-American culture to that. And since I'm working for an Anglo-American company, ergo, it's all going to be the same and we're all happy. But that's not it. You have to really you have to make the effort. And in most situations, even if you don't speak the language, or if you're making an effort to speak the language, and if you're not being judgmental, because people can read you very easily, your nonverbals are at a distance. So they know if you are being sincere or not. So are you curious? And typically putting yourself in the other person's shoes, always. So let's say like in Brazil, I know public transportation is a mess. People struggle sometimes just to get to work. So am I going to be really tough on someone that's 15 to 30 minutes late every day? Yeah. I can't be. I have to be sensitive to their situation. Now, are they going to make it up in a way? Are they still going to be performing? Give them the chance. Don't go in with a negative stereotype, and don't apply your own, your own lens to a situation. You have to really think about it from both sides, and always step back, like in the VUCA world, step back and try to really connect with your people.
I love that. I love that advice. Jim's got a question. He says, your global resume is very impressive. What key learnings around global diversity and inclusion can you share with us today? Ooh, good one.
Excellent question. Excellent question. And again, I think multinationals have a really big role to play on this. And they have, to a large extent, helped out the issue. And in some cases, not so much. It depends on the industry. But I think right now, it's all about diversity and inclusion. I see it, when I go to conferences, even in the oil industry is typically very conservative, but yet they have understood the need to open it up to all types of groups, not just white men. It's now really, I have to say, and there's still a kind of a glass ceiling, I have to admit, when you get to certain levels of the company, but I still see there is progression out there. But again, if you're interested in that theme, look what the organization is doing about that. Do they specifically have a department? Do they have a social media presence talking about diversity and inclusion? And not just an internal procedure that they have to process or that they have to follow because the law tells them that they have to follow that. So are they really, really living, or are they practicing what they're preaching?
I totally agree with you. I think one of the most powerful things about doing exchange programs, living in another country, traveling, is what we learn and how we become more curious about our way to communicate and relate to other cultures. I think there's so much more to be done in that area. And I want to believe that globalization and technology, and like you said, digital can also help with that. So that's at least my hope when it comes to all of this, for sure. Listen, for folks who are just jumping on, we're talking with Jason Winters, and this has been an amazing discussion. He's a global business executive. Today, he's been talking about this awesome article he wrote for Work It Daily on project management. Jason, you've handled all these questions brilliantly. You're a natural at this. First question before we wrap up is, where can people find you and connect with you?
Okay, so I'm on LinkedIn under Jason Winters PMP. And I'm currently in Brazil, so it's Rio de Janeiro. I think there's only 2 Jason Winters PMP that I've seen on LinkedIn, so I'm one of the 2.
We got a good shot there. Yeah. Plus, we'll put the link in for everyone.
So look me up. I'm always enjoy connecting with people all over the world, other industries, like exchanging information. For me, that's really, really satisfying.
Fantastic. And then the final question, we always bring it back to our guests and say, what's the one thing you want people to take away most from today?
It's success. So your profession, you can be successful at any profession that you choose, but I chose to be, project management was a natural fit for me. But I would say really, take the emotion out of stressful situations, especially today. We're all under, lockdown, COVID's not helping out. We have to homeschool our kids sometimes. Stay positive, because the neuroscience is another thing. It's positive influences, a positive mind, approach, a positive mindset will get you so much further, and you'll be able to solve a lot of your problems. It's just, stay positive. Don't let the negative J.T.
Oh, fantastic. Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much. And we want you to come back again. Folks, thank you for participating today. Your questions were great. And we want to see you next time on Executive Insider. So remember what we always tell you, if you want to win, you got to work it daily. All right. And until next time, see you then. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.